Hello, everybody. This is Brian Mull, aka Digital Mully. And today I'm going to record a video as an accompanying guide to a blog post that I'm writing that is meant to help people that are in the beginning stages of their digital marketing. Um, I recently was speaking with some colleagues, and they were talking about a client that they recently took on, and they were explaining how the digital marketing team that this client was working with, how they had the keys to everything. And the client themselves didn't have access to their Google Ads, Google Analytics, Search Console. They only received a handful of reports from their agency, and that's all they had access to. They're now considering moving to a different team as they're not sure they're getting the service that they need. And they have questions like, how do I disconnect from this team that's so ingrained and has all the usernames and passwords for everything? Well, this isn't an uncommon issue. I would think that this would be one of the very first starting points of the things you'd want to make sure that you're considering when either A, taking over a new digital marketing account, or uh, starting a new digital marketing department or uh, division within a company. If you're having to do this from the ground up, account structure and making sure you have access to everything is definitely going to be, if not one of the first steps, the first steps. So decided to create this guide on the various aspects that you need to consider if you want to truly disconnect from your agency, and also navigating the political side of it, like not making anybody angry, doing things in a way that's not going to ruffle feathers or make anybody upset with each other. So I'm going to jump in here and break down this article and explain some of these items in greater detail. This is how I do it with my team and at our agency. So this is definitely showing a little bit of a behind the scenes on agency operations. So before you get into this process, there can be a lot of different applications that go along with a digital marketing campaign for any given company. So many that I recommend creating a spreadsheet and tracking which ones you've already gained access to, and go down the list and make sure you don't forget any of them. Uh, you're going to potentially need to get access to team members that have either specific knowledge or access. For all the accounts that you're going to be getting access to, it's a good idea to make sure that you have access to the billing so that you actually own it. It'd also be wise to know the vendors and have any contact information at hand that they have available. And as always, you want to be using a password manager to secure all your passwords. So, as I said, if you're going to get into this process, one of the first things you have to do is take an inventory of everything. It can be more than you think. When I first wrote this article, I had started with Google accounts and getting access to analytics. But as I started to think about this more, there's actually more to it that you need to get access if you truly wanted to have ownership of everything that was related to your digital marketing. So, if we get into this, what are those items? Well, the first thing that I think is probably the most important item that you need to have control of is your domain. And by that, making sure that your domain is sitting in an account that you own, either with GoDaddy or Cloudflare, and you are the person that's paying the bill every month. And when renewals get sent, it's to your email address. If somebody else has control of that, you don't truly, have own your domain. Somebody else could go in and lock you out or sell the domain and, or not renew it by accident, which was a classic scenario that still happens today. The renewal email goes out and nobody gets it, and domain goes down for a few days until everybody scrambles. So first and foremost, make sure you own your domain and that it sits in an account that you actually own and pay the registration fees. Next up is hosting. That domain name is pointing to a hosting account. If you have a website, make sure you own the hosting account. Make sure that you're paying that bill and that you're the admin on the account and super admin. Yes, your web developer is going to need access, but make sure you have top level access. Make sure you're the person paying the bill. So you got your domain, you got your hosting. Now you need access to your content management system. And by that, WordPress, Magento, Shopify, whatever you're using to manage your site, make sure you have admin access, super admin access if possible. If you have your domain, you own the hosting, you have admin access to your backend, to your content management system, you now have full control of your site. If Cloudflare is mixed in there, make sure you own that as well, or it's to an account that you own. So moving on. The real reason I was writing this article was to explain MCC accounts. Like at our agency, we use one email address and we make sure it's an admin on every single client account that we have access to. This allows us to easily get access to everything all at once. As a digital marketing project manager, I need to be able to get access to the Google Analytics account and Search Console accounts. Having one MCC email makes it straightforward, at least to get in for the first time and then maybe grant access to yourself. So I talk about how Google, they were the ones to start this process with their MCC accounts in Google Ads, but now they are recommending that you create a brand account with them and then designate owners from there. But I still feel it's a best practice to have the one email that's not tied to any one user that is a super admin on all your accounts so that you never get locked out. So to do this correct, we talked about the website, but you actually need to go through all your marketing applications and take an inventory. What are you using for customer relation CRM? Is it Zoho? Is it HubSpot? Do you have access? What about your email marketing tools like MailChimp or Klaviyo? The SEO tools like SEMrush, Moz, Ahrefs, social media platforms themselves. Like, do you have access to your Meta account and Facebook profiles and Instagram? It is very, very important to make sure that you have an inventory of all this and have direct admin access to everything. So I go on to talk about how you want to make sure you have super admin access. I talk about the benefits of when you do have admin access to everything, you can connect the accounts together and often get greater detail in your reports. I know you can connect Search Console to ads, and ads to analytics, and analytics to Merchant Center. All these programs talk together and provide better level of reporting. If you're running an e-commerce store or website store, you also need to think about your analytics. Like, not every site is just a Google Analytics tag. If you're running an e-commerce store, which most of my clients are, there's more than just analytics running on that site to make sure that things are working. Take an inventory of all those different analytics applications and make sure you got access to the tag manager containers and everything. Facebook, if you have access to your Meta account, that means you can get access to the pixel configurations. So once again, make sure you have that level of ownership. If you are disconnecting from your agency, talk to them about what is actually yours versus theirs. Photography, images, video, the stuff they've created for you, Photoshop source files, brand guidelines, all that needs to be clarified of like who truly owns that. We talk about fonts, stock photos, fonts, and different illustrations and infographics. Finally, I spoke about this earlier, social media, making sure that you have access to everything there. And then when it does come time to make the transition, this is not something that I would take this delicately. And I talk about if you start to ask access to these applications, at some point the agency or dev team is going to start to ask, why are you asking for this? I mean, they are going to probably raise a red flag, but there are so many retorts that you can give to explain why you're doing this. I mean, and I've given several different levels of different excuses you could give that are all valid that you could use to make sure you're communicating with them. In this section, I'm breaking down the transition where you first want to get access to your domain name, hosting, and CMS, and then I break it down from there, getting into everything else. But it's this section where I'm talking about managing communications. Like, why are you asking for these passwords? Well, we're conducting an internal audit and want to make sure we understand where we're at with all our assets and vendor relationships. Or blame it on the legal guys. Our compliance team requires this. Our lawyers require this. Our data security policies require this. Nobody's going to question that. You own the accounts anyways. So they can't really hold them hostage. You're the one paying them for their services unless everything truly sits on their accounts. You should be the owner, and asking for this type of information is not unheard of at all. So I give a whole bunch of different reasons you can, replies you can give to your team, to your existing partners if they start to ask questions, like give you some sample responses. And of course, you want to keep things professional. You don't ever want to get emotional or heated. You always want to keep things professional and just be honest with them and only tell them as much as they need to know. They work for you. So let's keep it correct here. But of course, we want to be respectful, set the right tone, have the right courtesies. And you always want to leave that door open in case you need them in the future. Don't burn the bridge. Don't say anything negative. If you do it the right way, you can take over ownership and maybe continue to keep working with them. But if you want to use someone else, you can. But you're not being held hostage by any means, which was the reason for this article. And going back to my original story, this client that I'm talking about is very much working through this process now. And they've made their own checklist. They're going through it and steadily asking for access. So see if there's any pitfalls to avoid here, rushing through the process, forgetting tools. Go through that checklist and make sure you're not forgetting anything. If you need historical data access, maybe export reports, or a lot of this could be considered worst case scenarios too. If it's really in shambles, make sure you're exporting everything. And then once you're done, you can go through everything and remove them one by one. That's the ultimate goal of this, is that you get admin access so that you can go through and add your new people and remove them. They can't do anything about it. You own it. So I recommend, if this is something that you need to do right away, start your inventory list, create your master checklist, get everybody ready, get the team prepared, tell them what you're doing, maybe even get some of those responses ready in case your vendors start to ask questions. Just set a timeline for everything and map it all out. So, as I said, to wrap this up here, it's not just about disconnecting from the agency. It's like setting a proper digital marketing foundation for yourself and your future. So this is step one of a new digital marketing department, or where you would start with working with a new client. I invite everybody to put your own thoughts in the comments of what you think about my process, or do you do something differently that you feel strongly about? Put it in the comments. I'd like to hear. But otherwise, thank you very much. Brian Mull, over and out.